Very cool. So, all right, Brendan, we're doing a
What's up,
quick.
Seth?
What's up, man? Good morning. I hope you're doing well on this beautiful Thursday. It's March 2nd for the listeners out there, and we're just doing a quick market minute, which will probably be like 20 or 30 minutes, but we wanted to create some specific content around what's happening today in the Boston real estate market, you know, the Suffolk County area, the Essex County area, a little bit of Middlesex. And like, I was looking at inventory this morning, and man, like, it's kind of grim out there. So I wanted to just kick it off and like, you know, what are you seeing in the market right now? I know I'm seeing the market pick up a ton right now, even though interest rates are at 4 months highs. So what are you seeing out there this week in the market?
So we're definitely seeing an uptick in volume, right? So like the last week, I have noticed that I'm getting a lot more accepted offers, doing a lot more purchase and sales agreements. What?
We love that.
We do love that. It was a little slow for a couple of weeks, so it's nice to see this tick in the market. Definitely am seeing. I think that there's a huge discrepancy in what's happening, sort of in the sub $1 million versus like 1.5 north. Like I'm noticing that anything that's priced right, I'm hearing from my agents that multiple offers, large amounts of people at the open houses, like flying off the shelves on the sub $1 million market. But I am seeing movement in stuff that's been sitting on the market for like 150, 200 days on the 1.5 north market. So even that stuff's starting to move. I just think it took a long time.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like even though rates have been ticking up a ton lately, which we'll talk about a little bit, the inventory is getting snatched, right? So as of this morning, there are, I think, no single-family homes. Actually, there's one single-family home left for sale in Winthrop. Everything else went pending this past weekend, with mortgage rates hitting 7%. I made a video a couple weeks ago. They finally got into the 5s. The next morning, they were 6.25%. And then all of a sudden, now they're 7 again, right? So the inventory is still moving. People do not care that rates are higher. They are getting paid more, I think, a little bit. And
I think they're used to it now, right? Like we've been in this environment for a year, and if you've been almost a year, like when did rates start going? Like we had our alarming increase like in April, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's when rates really started to tick up, and I think eventually now, the buying persona is different, right? So we've talked about this a lot. The buyer who was in the market last spring is not the buyer who's necessarily still in the market right now. They re-rented. They might have bought while rates were ticking up. And the renters right now who are seeing the crazy rental increases just don't care. They want to buy.
Yep.
It's crazy, right? So
they're paying their own mortgage and not their landlords.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. So it's just, it's crazy. Like I personally complained a lot about the market, so to speak, when rates were on the rise and the uncertainty was real. And now it's just different. And so it's funny that all this inventory can still go pending. And it just shows you it's all really just supply and demand.
Well, it took a while too for the sticker shock to wear off, right? Sure. So like it's like when you go shop for a car and you go in the first one and they're like, that's going to be $1,800 a month. And you're like, whoa, I got to get out of here. And then you go to the fifth or sixth time and you're like, all right, I'm paying over sticker. Like there's no inventory. I'm paying my borrowing costs are going up. I'm paying way more than I wanted to, but you just get used to it. You get beaten down to accepting like 7.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, I do think rates will settle. We had a shot in our office a couple weeks ago. He covered some great content. We've been posting it online. The reality of it is inflation obviously is driving a lot of this rate data. And most recently, and you and I spent some time talking about this on the phone, rates are running up due to the really positive jobs report that broke 2-3 weeks ago. The next jobs report is in a week from now on March 10th. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens in that jobs report. You keep hearing about all these job cuts. The Fed wants job cuts. The Fed wants to attack housing. And so the reality is, if and when that job cuts report comes out and it is strong, meaning we are losing jobs, then I think you might see the Fed back down a little bit in the future, not in March per se, but I think that will help rates loosen up just a tad and maybe head back into the mid sixes. And then secondly, the inflation data is going to become very cyclical, right? So we're heading into March and April. Well, we're already in March, right? And that's when the market started running up because of inflation data. And so the reality of it is, if inflation data now has to go year over this really high number, we should start to see some strong controlling, for lack of a better word, of inflation, because it's going to be easier to show a downward trend in inflation. So I think over the next 3 months, you will see rates come down significantly.
I mean, I think let's be honest. Like, we all hope that rates go down, and I think that the market is baking in the Fed raising the interest rates another 50%, 50 points rather, 50 basis points. So I think that when we got those surprise employment numbers and that surprise inflation report, like the yields on short-term borrowing and long-term borrowing just went up, which sort of go in the opposite direction. And as they go up, mortgage rates go up, right? So,
No doubt.
I think we're just waiting. But I think the hard part is it's like roulette at this point. Nobody knows where the wheel's going to stop, right? And we keep thinking that inflation's on its way down, and that I've been talking about this for a long time. Like, we're reading the headlines, like all these big tech companies are laying people off, but like there's all this massive jobs growth. And I think you and I talked about this. Like, a lot of it is people taking on second jobs, or people 100%. That are not making enough in their primary world, that they need more employment because they can't afford the inflation.
Because the electric bill is quadruple what it was 4 months ago, right? The reality is, 500,000 jobs grown. Yeah, maybe that comma got popped in the wrong place, because the amount of tech layoffs that I keep seeing is bonkers. And I think that there has to be some statistical lag or inaccuracies. And that often they go back and revise those job reports. Mm-hmm. So like,
but the market doesn't be like, oh, we're going to change our closing from that day.
Yeah, man, it's a little strange. So, so mortgage rates as of right now, 4-month highs, because we had a 3-month really, really good trend. You and I have been talking about this a lot on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is now they're back to where they were in October again. So a 4-month high. You and I were speaking about it yesterday, a 28-year low in mortgage applications, which, by the way, that brings us back to 1995. Fun stat.
What was mortgage rates in 1995?
No, well, I don't actually. Well, I presume they were.
I bet they were 14%.
Yeah, and I'll actually just look it up real quick. Right? Yeah. Mortgage rates in 1995. The answer to that is 7.93%. Thank you, Google.
Yeah.
So we're about 75 basis points, maybe 80 basis points from that rate. The number one song in 1995, Brendan, any guesses?
Jagged Little Pill.
It was Gangster's Paradise, man.
Oh, you know what? I listened to that the other day on my Spotify playlist. Gangster's Paradise, one of my favorite songs.
Dude, it's a jam. It's a jam. It's a jam.
So how I got into rap.
That's interesting stat. So for some reason, it's still on the radio from time to time, but I guess it still bumps just as hard then as it did in 1995. So. But
I think that's an interesting point, right? So, like, the last time we had rates this low, last time we had mortgage applications this low, the rates were relatively close to what they are. So what we've had in the last, 3 or 4 or 5 years is artificially low mortgage rates, right? So, like, we're rebalancing to a healthy, regular mortgage rate. And I think that as time passes, the mortgage rates aren't going to be the thing that we're talking about, because people are just going to get used to mortgage rates are in the 7s, and we may never see 3 again, right? Like, that may have been a pandemic anomaly. We're just never going to get back to it. And I think we're going to start to get back to the thing that we talk about a lot, which are, we need more housing. We have no inventory. We have all these communities that want to prevent people from building housing. And the one thing we need is housing. That's what's holding us back, is inventory.
Yeah, no doubt. So on that, it's interesting you talked about, I talked a little bit about Winthrop, all the homes sold this past weekend. I personally wrote several offers this week. Some accepted, some not accepted. Almost all were anywhere from 8 to 11% written over asking. Strong offers, clean offers, not being accepted or responded to it really in any shape of a positive manner, which is crazy. And I just quickly pulled some stats here around specifically single family,
Mm-hmm.
and I just did it by county. Okay, so interestingly enough, inventory is actually up year over year. Now that might be a little bit of a fake stat, right? Because it's March 2nd, okay? And this is usually the spring market. I got news for you. For those saying that the market is about to heat up because it's spring, I disagree. I do not think that homes will rush to the market in March. I think if you are a seller, the time to get your house on the market has almost maybe already passed because you missed the interest rate dip over the last few months. But listen, people still have to sell. Homes will still always sell. It happens in life events, right? People
And
have
people still want to
kids.
buy,
They still
and
want
there's
to buy
no
100%.
inventory.
Right.
So,
So
like, did they really, like, I'm going to challenge you on that. Like, did the seller really miss? I don't think they did, because there's no other inventory,
let me put
and
it
there are
this way.
plenty of buyers.
I think that the seller had an opportunity to potentially have more buyers 4 weeks ago because there was less inventory 4 weeks ago. And I think
Gotcha.
like let's look at Lad Hill as an example. Double
Yeah.
digit offers, significantly over asking, closed already in less than that home. From the day I stepped in it to potentially bring it to the market with our team here at Reference, it closed 29 days later from the day I walked in the front door. Okay, that is fast, and that is due from an
Lightning.
aggressive agent with an aggressive over ask offer. By the way, not cash, still financed, clear to close in less than 7 days. Shout out to Guaranteed Rate, Shot and team. You guys killed it on that one, and Caitlin, the realtor from Caldwell Banker, that delivered on that one. But that was one of 2 homes for sale in 01904. A third one hit later on in the week that was significantly overpriced and sold under asking. Homes that are clean, that are priced well, had a lot of competition. But I think the reason I think maybe you have missed the mark slightly as a seller is because now if 4 or 5 homes drop on the market this week, the reality is a consumer has choices. And I saw that in Linfield, okay, to a degree, right?
Yeah.
We were one of 2 homes in a certain price point on the market that week in Linfield. There was double-digit offers on the competitor home. Unfortunately, it was more move-in ready. It was more of a traditional layout. Our home ended up with just a few offers and none at the offer deadline. Okay, so if the home is clean, people are going for it. If the home needs work,
But you
people
know
are
what? At the end
passing.
of the day, you still got that under agreement, right?
Yeah,
So,
no,
like,
no doubt, but that's an inventory issue, right?
yeah,
If there was one other house on the market and everyone went for that one, that's what I'm saying, I guess. So now as more people think traditionally, let me just say this, traditionally the spring is the time to list. The time to list is when there's no homes on the market, okay?
yeah.
I guess that's my point, right? So if 10 or 15 homes hit the market in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think I'm learning that the consumer has choices. They want move-in ready and they want priced well. And so we were in a position, if there was 2 or 3 other homes on the market that same weekend, we might not have
Well,
gone pending, is my
I went
point.
to an open house in Linfield last weekend.
It didn't come to mind.
Similar
Appreciate it.
price range, probably less than the house that you have under agreement. It was jammed, and I haven't
What's
looked
the
back
price
to
point?
see if
800,
that
800 grand?
what.
800 grand?
Yeah, it was either $799 or $899. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Small house. I think I saw it.
What?
It was a smaller house?
It was like 3,000 square feet.
Oh, okay. Needed a kitchen. Is it that one?
It was a single floor ranch.
Yeah.
Needed, yeah, corner
I
lot.
bet you it sold.
Yeah, I'm sure it did, just based on the traffic.
Yeah, no doubt. But that was the thing. We had 100 buying groups through the house in Linfield, and we didn't get an offer at the deadline. We had to wait for the other house to go pending and have a bunch of double-digit losers on that house come back to us. So I guess that's my point. Like when there is more houses on the market, I think even though there is a ton of buyers, obviously, I think people are just looking for something cleaner. So as people think that traditionally, like the old school realtor who thinks that, oh, you got to list April 1st, April 15th. Like, no, you got to look at the market and ebb and flow with what's happening in the jobs market, the inflation market, the inventory of real estate. And that's when you should list.
Yeah, but I think you also raise another point that is worth highlighting, and that's pricing things right and, knowing when and how to bring stuff to market, right? So like I think the biggest thing is that when things are priced right, they are moving and they are moving quickly.
No doubt.
What we're seeing is the things that are overpriced that, tend to sit for a long time. People are either pushing the market or trying to chase the market, and they're just not adjusting quickly enough. And then the inventory sits
Right.
there. And I think for most buyers that, once something's been on too long, like they're just no longer interested, or they think that they can get a deal and they're just going to keep lowballing it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have seen some low balls, and we've been putting some low balls out there on the inventory, trying to find that high motivated seller who needs to sell, needs to upsize, needs to downsize, and they have a ton of equity, and so maybe they will cut bait on it. And
Yeah.
then we've seen a ton of other properties sit priced appropriately because prices aren't falling right now because there's still no inventory, and they go like we just sold a couple of units. They're $5,000 under asking. They were on the market for 45 days. In a normal market, things just take sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 months to sell, right? And we're seeing more normalcy because of rates, but at least hyper locally, there's no inventory. I agree with
Right.
you. So right now, and listen, as we keep doing these market minutes, we'll talk a lot about inventory ebbs and flows. That's what's cool. That's why we're doing this right now. But yeah, inventory, for instance, in Middlesex County, there's 577 homes on the market, single family, as of this morning on March 2nd. Last year, this time, 409 homes. So inventory is significantly better, a 41% increase in inventory. That being said, still less than 1 month's supply. It is a seller's market in Middlesex County. So even though there's a lot more inventory, contributed probably by things taking way longer to sell. Specifically, the average days on market was 34 days last year. It is 47 right now. That's a 38% increase in days on market. Oh, by the way, average sale price is still up 2%, right? So we're not seeing these 20, 30% increases that maybe we saw 2-3 years in a row, but you're still seeing positive appreciation. I think that statistic will start to be interesting as the time goes by, because the report we're looking at right now is what we call an area market review. It's just year over year, snap the chalk line, right? So and this is when we were listing things and we started to see things sit last year. So I think next week you'll see last year's inventory numbers rise and rise and rise, and we will get to a place where the inventory is the same as last year. That's kind of my prediction. And when we look at Essex County, man, there's a significant less amount of homes on the market, and that part of that is just maybe a little bit more spread out, and it's a little bit of a smaller, I think, county versus Middlesex, right?
Much smaller, yeah.
248 homes on the market right now. When it comes to single family, last year 180, another 37%. In Middlesex was 41% as well. And then from a days on market standpoint, 42 days is the average days on market this year. That's a 35% increase over last year at 31%. So, and oh, by the way, average sale price, 4.82% appreciation year over year. Okay. So market's still going up. So those telling me the market's crashing because interest rates at 7%,
Yeah.
you are wrong.
I agree. And I think what we're going to see is that Essex County, I think what would be interesting, and I'll do this for next week, is to look at the median age in Essex County and Middlesex County. So what we have is a massive amount of people that are in the ages of like 25 to 40 that are still coupling and still needing to, have children and buy houses. While at the same time, we're seeing, and especially in Essex County, I'm pretty sure that the median age is significantly higher. So we're going to start to see these baby boomers dying and needing to downsize, or, creating more inventory, which is what we need. So I'm going to pull the age brackets on those for next week so that we can look at that, because I think that'll be an interesting statistic too, and support my position that we don't have enough housing for these people to move into. Like, I keep talking about my parents. My parents live in Nahant. They've always lived in Nahant. They're not leaving Nahant. But guess what? There's no single floor houses or apartments or condos that they could move into with a garage and an elevator. So they're never getting rid of their big house. They're
Yeah,
probably going to die in it because there's nowhere else to go. And that's
yep,
preventing a young family from buying a nice
no doubt.
big house that otherwise could be trading.
Yeah, and if you think about it too, like those folks that maybe you said elevator building, right? First
Yeah,
off, not a lot around here because it's
none.
Boston. People keep asking me why don't houses have garages here? It's because they were established before the car. People forget that, right? It's the same reason we don't have a lot of elevator buildings, right? It's hard, it's expensive, etc. It's only in a lot of rehab or newer construction. But at the same time, COVID scared the shit out of people, and maybe they don't want to go into those buildings. We heard on the news how all these people were trapped, and now maybe people want to age in place more so than they have in years past, which means less homes on the market. Couple that with literally anybody and everybody that has a sub 3.5% interest rate, which is half of America. The reality is trading up becomes harder. So rehabbing, finishing basements, etc. It just continues to mean less inventory. So I think we will be in this problem for a while.
Agreed. Until we change
Cool.
our zoning laws, until we get
I
the
know you're
ability to build more dense housing, build more, townhouses and things like that for, these seniors to move into so that they can create, more inventory.
yeah.
The answer is not restricting development by adding more affordable housing components and adding rent control. Like these things make housing less affordable, not more affordable.
No doubt.
More
No doubt.
inventory makes housing more affordable.
I completely agree. So we'll see. I think more homes are coming, and I think we'll see that year over year balance of inventory even out. And listen, I do still think it is going to be competitive for a while, but I think as rates continue to run up, the volatility is what scares people. So I think it'll be interesting. Hopefully in the next, when we do this next week, we'll talk a little bit more about what is happening with hypothetical reports of what the jobs report will do. We'll be into inflation data again coming soon. And
Do we get to
hopefully we'll watch
pontificate a little and make crazy
predictions.
predictions?
Yeah, man, I hope so. I hope so. So, it's
All
funny. I
right.
pulled Suffolk County data as well, and there's like less than 100 homes for sale, single family in Suffolk County. Now, Suffolk County includes Winthrop, Chelsea, and Revere, but it's mostly Boston as well. So,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I didn't pull up the data. It's just that's more of a condo market. And
Hmm.
it's interesting. I pulled Suffolk condos real quick, and then I specifically pulled East Boston condos, a market that I think right now was oversaturated in terms of how much was on the market. Reality is it's actually significantly less than last year, right? So where I thought the market was a little flooded in East Boston, it's actually way less than last year, whereas these single family markets are still seeing more than last year. So every part of the market, single family, condo, and multifamily are their own micro markets. And I do think this really, really ebbs and flows by town. So it's interesting. So for the listeners out there, if you want to see us get hyper local on one or two markets, or we can talk about that and dive a little bit deeper and share some additional data for you. So anything else you want to hit on, Brendan?
No, I think that crushed all the things. Although I think we should have a call in case people want to call in and ask
Yeah.
questions. But maybe
Well,
something for us to move towards.
we'll have them comment on the gram and see what markets we talk about next.
Oh, we could Facebook Live it,
We
Instagram
probably
Live.
we probably could. I don't know how to do that. We'll have to
Yeah, well,
phone a
we'll
friend.
figure it out. We got plenty of time to figure that shit out.
I can barely get my second camera working. Remember, so
Yeah.
all right, man. Well, listen, you have a killer day, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, man.
See ya.